go back and listen again later. So that recording is started, and we'll turn it over to Maurice. We see you, Maurice, but we don't hear you. Maybe while Maurice works on that, we'll kick it off, and Laura, if we can do it, then, or let's see, he's putting his headset on. Does that work? Still no sound. So our agenda today is up. And as soon as we can get the technicals put out, we'll get Maurice. He's got some more going on later on. We'll hear from him a little bit later with more information and sharing, resource sharing. There's a lot of information in here today, and we have a bibliography, if you will, or resources that we'll be posting to the website afterward as well, along with some things jumping into the chat. So next slide. We're using Teams, so as a reminder, just to help with some background noise, if you're not actually speaking, please mute, but we do want to hear from you. So use the chat, raise your hand. If you would like to speak, use the chat, and we'll break in and share that information with everybody along the way. Let's see if I can come up with my notes here. Make sure I covered everything. Yep. After the meeting, we will be also posting the meeting minutes to the website, and we'll send out our email through Constant Contact for everybody that's on the coalition email list, letting you know when things are posted to the website. So next slide.
And Kathy, this is Laura. For one moment, I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to reshare because I just realized I forgot to turn on the computer sound button. So one moment. Speaking of technical difficulties, this is more of a Laura difficulty. All right, is that back up like it's supposed to be?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
All right, so next slide. Is Jude on the line with us?
Yes, ma'am. How are you all this morning?
Awesome. Doing well. Take it away with our task force update.
All righty. Well, we've had our first, basically a preliminary meeting. And for those of you who don't know, the task force objective for this fiscal year is to identify 10 motorcycle safety initiatives that could be considered for future grant funding. So our first preliminary meeting was basically just to toss around many different ideas without having a whole lot of discussion on them. And then in our 3 subsequent meetings to have more in-depth conversations on those possible initiatives and narrow the list down to about 10. But I would tell everybody, just like I told everyone on the task force, there are limitations on what we can actually accomplish on this task force. When I say there are limitations, it's because due to grant funding requirements, there are some limitations on what we can actually work towards. So I would remind everybody, you know, the Hatch Act would preclude us from developing any possible legislative action and pushing that legislative action. So we can't do those things, but I will just give you a brief rundown on some of the items that we threw out and discussed. One of them, and certainly foremost in my mind, is attendance with the Texas Motorcycle Safety Coalition. You know, the greater attendance we have, the more motorcyclists involved in this function, the better represented, you know, our initiatives will be moving forward. So I think we need to figure out a way to work on attendance and get TMSC back to the point it was when it first began. We also talked about greater interaction with the dealerships. Um, and we have several different ideas that we might be looking at more in depth to get the dealerships greater involved with motorcycle safety in Texas. Excuse me. We're also going to look at the possibility of a study by TTI and maybe involvement with TxDOT um, to look at interactions between motorcycles and autonomous vehicles. This is a big issue nationwide, and I think Texas should be at the forefront of that issue because autonomous vehicles are growing in the U.S. and the current level of technology does not is not 100% foolproof on AVs. You know, seeing motorcycles, so we need to see what we can do on that particular issue. We're also talked about using data to key in on um, crash issues. You know, it's always best to use the data that's available, if possible, to try to drive what your initiatives are to combat the problem. Because unless you fully understand the problem, you know you might be throwing money away and trying to solve a problem that doesn't really exist. Motorist awareness issues. Uh, Chris Sharman brought up a good idea about trying to get heat maps of motorcycle crash locations to help guide the message distribution. Um, Also, we discussed trying to get 501 funding. That's General Revenue 501, the Motorcycle Safety Education Fund, to help defray the cost of rider coach training. We can certainly look into that. Uh, some thoughts from Colby Music were on impaired riding, which is a huge issue in the motorcycle community. So we're going to look at that for possible solutions to that problem. We've talked about this in the past. I think we need to continue to talk about it. As far as motorist awareness, we had Nina Saint on the task force, which is a great help for us because she can shed light on what is currently being taught to new motorists relative to motorcycle awareness. And I think there's probably some work we can do there to try to bring that issue to the forefront and teach new motorists more about the human factors involved in being aware for motorcycles. Um, so those are just some of the things that we have discussed to try to address these issues and try to pare them down. And I would ask everyone if you have an issue that you think that should be an initiative that we study further and consider for possible inclusion moving forward, please get that information to the TMSC. And I'm going to drop Kathy Brooks in the grease here, and she can certainly get her email address out to you so that we can look at any issues that you think might be uh, worthy of further consideration. Now, I've also want to put a little information out on the Texas Biker Legislative Day event, January 22nd, 23rd. The actual legislative day, you know, the ride to the Capitol is the 23rd. I believe that's a Monday. The 22nd is kind of a training day. There's a flyer available that will give you some of those event locations, and I believe we can show that on the slide moving
Next
forward,
slide, yeah.
or we can get that to you. There are two particular bills that have been pre-filed by Mary Gonzalez, Democrat of El Paso. They were filed last year. I haven't looked at them close enough to know that to see that there were any changes in last session's bill and the current bills. The first one would be House Bill 230, and that relates to intelligence database for criminal street gangs. As you folks may or may not know, some motorcyclists are reporting that they have been included in this criminal intelligence database without their knowledge. Basically, House Bill 230 would require the Department of Public Safety to notify anyone through probably registered mail. Yes, registered mail of their inclusion in this criminal database. And then, of course, the bill also gives some ways to mitigate that inclusion. And House Bill 258 is the motorcycle profiling bill by peace officers. Some motorcyclists do report that they've been profiled, that they were stopped without required probable cause, just based upon the fact that they were riding a motorcycle or wearing, a three-piece patch. So we see we've had those things reported. So that's House Bill 258 would require a more in-depth reason for stopping someone that's wearing motorcycle related gear, and would prohibit motorcycle profiling just based upon the fact that they're riding a motorcycle and wearing, some type of motorcycle identifying paraphernalia. So those bills are House Bill number 258, motorcycle profiling, and House Bill 230 for the inclusion in the criminal database. Just briefly, I would tell you that it's easy to follow these bills. Just go to the Texas Legislature online, just Google it. It's the best online resource for following bill activity. You can create your own profile, doesn't cost you anything, and you can list any bill that you want to be alerted on any movement as it works its way through the legal process. If it doesn't move, you won't get any alerts. So that's all I have for you today.
So thank you, Jude. We do have a hand raised. Rain, did you have something to add or a question?
I do. Question, clarification, and this is going out to Jude. And Jude, I don't know if you know the answer to this. A few years ago, we had what was called Mallory's Law implemented here in the state of Texas. And what Mallory's Law is that all motorcycles, nothing was grandfathered in, has to have a handheld. And I really drilled down this one. This is one of my articles that got literally millions of views off of Easy Rider's website. And the challenge is that the way the law was written was that any law enforcement officer in the state of Texas with any law enforcement agency, it is up to that individual's officer's interpretation of whether your bike has the handheld or not and can pull you over. So that's just kind of a heads up, and that's a follow-up and a trigger for me to research Mallory's Law to see if any changes have been made to that bill, because that right there gives any officer in the state a reason to pull somebody over to quote unquote check to see if you have a handheld. And for those that aren't as savvy, the handheld is that little tiny strip of leather that comes on any stock motorcycle that's a new purchase. That even if you have just a simple seat and there is no possible way for a passenger to ride with you, your bike still legally has to have a handheld according to this law.
Yeah, I remember the law. I can't remember if it was last session or session before.
It was session before the one before that. It was a representative out of Plano, Collin County, that implemented it.
Right. And I don't recall if that section, because the bill covered some other stuff too. I don't recall specifically if that actually passed. Somebody could
It
probably
did pass.
let us.
It did pass.
Okay. So part of the issue with that dealt with the inspection code too, which is difficult for a law enforcement officer to enforce. But another issue there was there were several different types of handholds produced by several different manufacturers. So all of my motorcycles have a handhold that has nothing to do with the strap on the seat. And so changing the seat doesn't cause an issue. Because handhold wasn't real strictly defined in Natalie's law, I think that left it overly broad too and difficult to enforce.
Oh yeah, it wasn't
But
defined at all. Not at all.
right. So I would ask this one question. Are you aware of anyone that's been stopped relative to this law?
No, I don't. And that was one of the challenges because the state proclaimed that they had notified all dealerships and repair shops that Mallory's law was going into effect. I called all over the state and have yet to ever find anybody that was actually notified of Mallory's law. I even asked the motorcycle cops here in Dallas, and they were never notified that this went into effect either.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know, Rain, to be honest with you, I don't know what the depth of the problem was. I know it caused quite the brouhaha, just as you explained earlier when it first came out.
Yeah, because it gives you that loophole for profiling. Because I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement. This particular law, and I understand the parents were rattled that their daughter was killed in a motorcycle crash. But this was in my opinion, a vanity legislative move. It wasn't something that actually it leaves too many opportunities for misinterpretation of the law.
Right. I agree with you because it was too broadly written.
And
So,
as a motorcyclist myself, my bike it's like Jude said, mine is actually handles on the side of the seat that are built into the frame of the bike, and not a strap. But I was personally not aware of the law. Tells you how informed I am. But there were times my daughter would hand onto those handholds, and I wouldn't know for sure if she was still back there or awake, and I'd have to, is your knee still next to me, and are you still alert? So holding on to me felt more comfortable, and they could also feel my movements to know where they were moving as we were riding. So interesting conversation, and would love to dig into it a little bit more, but don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole that we don't have room for the rest of the program today.
no, I was just bringing that up in relation to HB 258. That's all.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, Jude, that I got the right. It was 258 and 230. Is that correct, or did I?
That's correct.
Okay.
House Bill 258 is the motorcycle profiling bill. House Bill 230 is the intelligence database notification requirement.
And what was the website that you wanted to? You said they could do some more research on those.
Texas Legislature Online, and I believe the specific URL is capital.texas.gov, something like that. But they can just Google TLO or whatever browser they use, and it should bring it up.
Okay, we'll work on that so it can be put in with the rest of the resources from today's meeting.
Great.
So thank you. Anything else, Jude?
That's all I got, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And before we click into the next slide, one thing that I did, sorry, my apologies, I a little rattled when technology wasn't working for us this morning. If you would please drop into the chat your name and what's kind of top on your mind now that we got into it a little bit more about motorcycle safety. What are you most interested in finding out more about? What are you most concerned about? Just kind of what's top of mind for you about motorcycle safety. So your name and what's important to you in the chat box, please. And we'll move to the next slide. I'm going to drop my name in there too. Reaching more people. So our motorcycle safety forum, we talked about on our last meeting, and we settled on the date of April 1st in San Marcos or New Braunfels, kind of the central Texas location, but trying to stay out of downtown Austin because that's such a fun place to ride a motorcycle. So coming down into San Marcos or New Braunfels, we have heard back from a couple of locations or a couple of venues in those locations that say that date's available. So we're working with them on that. And next, the biggest concern is, do we have time to pull this all together? So the agenda idea, some agenda ideas that came up were having the coalition meeting in person, either before or after. So we're looking currently at having it the Friday night before. Having a workshop in conjunction with it, either before or after. And we started looking into that, but we're thinking if we have a 8-hour workshop on Sunday after the forum, and you have to have attended the forum to be eligible to attend the workshop, we may not be giving you enough time to be getting back home, especially if you're coming from outlying areas. And we really want to encourage as many people as possible to come. So we're working around that idea of the workshop to maybe build something into the forum itself. So we have a very interactive idea of what to do in a crash. The other thing is to building the whole motorcycle safety is no joke, and building around the safe systems approach to zero fatalities, specifically for motorcycles, is when a crash happens, what happens? What happens after that? So doing kind of a case study of people who investigate them, the bystanders on the scene and what they can do, emergency services once they get there, what happens after they go, what's the long-term effects? How does it affect people that were involved and the families that were involved, families of those involved? And then what can be learned from those crashes to improve safety on the road? Is it a roadway? Is it training? Is it technologies? What can we do? So that's kind of the idea of it. Next, but we really need your help. So identifying speakers and participants, people that would be willing to help put this all together and be willing to add to their expertise, whether they are in law enforcement, EMS, firefighters, trauma centers, physicians, nurses, rehab centers for traumatic brain injuries, lawyers, investigators, people that have been involved in a crash, or somebody in their family was involved in a crash, and how did it affect them, and what can they do, and how can we build this community to help support each other as we move forward. So that's the first part of it. But the second part of it is we really, really need your help to increase attendance. We put out our registration for last year's. Everybody said, this is what we want to do. We had over 100 people saying this is what we want, and over 100 people register. And we had about 40 people. We had almost as many people that were speakers and presenters as we had attendees. And it's very disheartening. And so we really, really need help. And we understand it happened on the same day as MotoGP. So we take that into account, but we really, really need some help to boost up our attendance. Who doesn't know we exist out there? How can we spread the word to all kinds of people, whether they're writers or non-writers, insurance companies, anybody, everybody, anybody that's on the roadway. Everybody's a stakeholder in this. So can we get your help to be able to put this all together and be ready to have a very successful forum on April 1st? And I was hoping to be able to have a poll to see if you all could put your input on that. But as I think it's not letting me do it because I'm not the one presenting, but I'm not sure. So what do y'all think? I want to hear from you. Can you, do we have help out there that we can help identify some people, some experts in the fields to help us do this? Get some contacts within the next couple of weeks so we can make arrangements and get everything locked in by in time for an April 1st successful. I'm hearing crickets.
Well, we certainly can get it done in time, because basically we're just going to throw a lot of ideas at you, Kathy, and you're going to get it done.
I appreciate the vote of confidence. And actually, I think Courtney has joined the meeting because she's no longer on the sideline. We've got Courtney is another TTIer that we have reached out to help us put this all together, as well as Christy Havman, which I know most of you know, is already working on it too. So, yay! So I heard this before. Stacy Axmeyer. So I know Axe. I've known him for years. What would you like to hear from Axe? Because he does a lot of training, more geared for instructors. There's some for the regular writer, but what would you like to hear if we had Stacy come in as either a keynote or put on a presentation? New method of instruction for PEPs. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also you might see if he'll discuss, along with new methods of instructor preps, his thoughts on how we can combat the issue of a low level of instructors in the state of Texas. He might have some ideas on how we can recruit that would be a good venue during the forum. And I know this is a challenge for TTI, so it might be an opportunity to get Axe to weigh in on that problem and what experiences he's had in the past with that.
Okay. Legislative changes in the works. It's the middle of a legislative session. My hopes aren't really high for being able to get somebody from the legislature to come spend their weekend. But if you know of anybody out there that's willing to come, or even we can beam them in through virtual means, please send me that contact info and I'll be happy to reach out to them. Location for the safety forum, like I said, we're looking at either San Marcos or New Braunfels. San Marcos is kind of up at the top. Just heard back from New Braunfels. They had some personnel changes, so they're a little behind giving us a quote. Any other questions or suggestions really quick before we turn this back over to Maurice and the rest of the meeting? So James, I'm sorry you can't attend in person, but hopefully we'll be able to have some kind of last year with the multimodal. We had virtual, it's a hybrid, virtual and in person. We didn't have very many people attending virtually, but it did give us the opportunity to record the sessions. So we're looking into a way to record the sessions to be able to be shared on our YouTube channel or website for those that can't be there. But we'd really, really like to get as many people there as we possibly can. A crash-free program is Axe. That is Axe Maker. Okay. Maurice, we'll flip the slide and hand it on to you, and hopefully we'll hear your great voice today.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I had to resort to calling in by phone, so I'm going to try to have this near so you can hear me well. So I'm not on another phone call. I'm talking to y'all. All right. So one of the big things that as we get together and prep for not only our next meetings and stuff, but one of the big questions we wanted to ask is, what is it you all want to know, and what burning questions do you have? So you can raise a hand and put them in, or you can put them in chat. And while their wheels are turning and thinking, I'll go ahead and put in another comment on the Be Crash Free Axe Maker suggestion. You know, things he could go on. They are involved in the Rider Coach prep training and the new format, and they're also right on the forefront with ADV and Circuit. So they're doing some things that are kind of not quite fully in Texas yet. So I think that would be another thing that he could speak on to people, not only just rider coaches, but the whole motorcycling deal. And I didn't really look at Colorado in viewpoint of that. We might want to look at that later, Kathy, but you know.
Viewpoint of Colorado, how?
Oh, as far as my information, you know, so I usually try to include attendees and that kind of stuff. So.
Okay.
We've got a Charles and how to increase awareness and publicity. Ah, interesting. I might have a whopper of an ideal for you later that I'll share.
So Maurice, you said Axe.
Yeah.
You said Axe had advanced and something else training in
the ADV.
In ADV.
They're doing the ADV, the Adventure Bike program.
Adventure Bike.
The new MSF curriculum, and then they also did the Circuit Rider deal at the last conference, or second to last conference. So they're heavily involved in a lot of the continuing higher level training, newer offerings from MSF. So
I will reach out to Axe. It sounds like I've got several people that are asking to hear from him. So I told him I'd reach out to him after the last time I saw him, and I haven't done it yet. So it gives me a good excuse.
We got another suggestion there, Matt McConaughey as a spokesperson. That would be awesome.
I haven't got the guts up to call him yet, though.
But you have his number, so see, that's a good deal, right?
I heard rumor that he's a professor or something at UT. He had been a guest lecturer for a while. Now he's a professor at UT, but I Yeah, no, it'd be nice.
Right. Josh had the question about the MSF course. That's the RSL, the Writer Skill Lab. It has not been released. It may be spring or maybe even summer, but this next year is, there was discussion of it being released last fall, and it's just not there yet. But it should come out this year.
So, Ms. Gonza, you said you got to go to Boise for the adventure tour or training? Is
That's for the
that,
next class. If you
No, I
want
actually
the
went to
APT
Florida for the
certified.
first one. It was in Florida. The first one was in Florida. But the one that Stacy has listed on just came out with some information on it. There's like 4 of them, and all 4 are going to be the location. He's got dates throughout this summer and fall, but the location is Boise, Idaho. So those are going to be, if you're interested in going, it's great training. All off-road, no streets, all in the dirt. But those courses are going to be held in Boise, Idaho.
so is TDLR looking to approve that, or is it an approved course in Texas if someone decides to stand it up?
We're talking about the ADV course.
Yeah, the adventure bike course.
Yeah, so that is a non-regulated course. Again, it's not something you need an M endorsement for, but it's also it's very good training for anybody interested in getting into that part of our sport.
So
But it's not
thank you.
regulated by TDLR.
Thank you. That's a good clarification. So TDLR only regulates licensing courses?
That's correct.
Thank you. Good information. Back to you, Maurice.
All right. Vicki, do you have any more information on the BMW mentor program or experience with it?
I don't. We're talking about that at our Motorcycle Safety Advisory Council meetings in Wisconsin with Greg Patzer, who is a member of BMW. And our meeting is next week, so I expect to hear more about it next week. But I really love this idea of mentorship programs.
That would be a great add-on or information to pass along at the forum as well. That might be another one, Kathy, you might want to pencil down as far as having them come in, and that'd be another way for them to get their message out as well.
Kathy, I'll ask him about it, and then I'll forward the email to you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Sure.
If Charles, if you have Brittany Morrow's contact information, send it to me.
And just so you know, it's been a while, but she actually did come to one of our early forums. You want to, I guess the plug would be is if you have any further ones, Kathy's email is in the chat box. Please reach out to her and continue to send those in when you go home tonight and you sleep and you wake up in the morning and have that thought like, oh, wow, I should have said that one, or I've just had another great idea. Put it in there. Oh, Keith, you're getting ahead of yourself. We're not there yet. Let's move on, and then we'll talk about Keith later. Okay. Yes, Brittany survived a crash and is I think it was kind of known as the road rash girl for a while, and a big promoter of protective gear. So excellent. Yes, it would be good. I'm gonna. Good news, bad news. We needed some information to talk about at today's deal, and no other volunteers. So I'm here, an engineer, to talk to you about numbers. So it doesn't get much more exciting than that. hearing engineers talk about numbers. But one of the big things I like to look at is the big picture is, car, bike, motorcycle, how do people choose to travel and get around? As you can see from that picture, that's definitely a lot of motorcycles there. So if you look at the world in South and Southeast Asia, 80% of households own a motorcycle or scooter. In China, it's 60%. India, 47%. Anybody know what the United States number is? Are you surprised? It's 14%. And I think that sounds high to me because I don't see 14% out there. When they look at the road use and everything, most of the numbers come in at 2 or 3% at best of traffic is motorcycling. So just kind of a scale thing of that we're the minority all day long. So even though that we love them and we think they're the best. So. All right, we can go to the next one. So as we look in America, I was wondering who had the most in the nation. So I actually looked at 4 different resources. This first one shows California leading the way with 700,000, Florida at 600. This one has us in 7th place at about 300. One of the sad things as you look at this is New York. Come on, New York is beating us, guys. That's like that old Pace Peconic commercial. New York City, get a rope. But also surprisingly in Pennsylvania and Montana were on the list ahead of us. So 7th, that's one of the worst rankings in the sources. So go to the next one. Yeah, you were right on cue there. All right. So this is from the Title Max site. Well, we showed to pull up to 5th. New York doesn't show to beat us on this one, but California and Florida. If you look, California almost triple what we are. Florida almost double. No, this is okay. So right now, Vicki, your question. This is pure registrations. Okay. So, but again, 5th place. Still ahead of us, Ohio and Pennsylvania, and then it has the lowest 10. Next slide. So another one, y'all might like this one better. World Atlas says we're in 3rd place. We at least made it on the podium for the racers in the crowd. But this is also showing our number up at the 400 level. California. Now they're showing just under the 800 mark on this one. Florida at 500, still over 100,000 ahead of us. But you see Ohio and Pennsylvania's numbers are also right there, again, in close proximity to ours. Let's go ahead and do the next one. So this is another website. Kathy likes quite a bit. The guy puts together quite a bit of information. So he's got a pretty big spreadsheet, as you can see on the side, and he has it going back to, I think, 2001 to 2020, year by year registration numbers. On this one, using his latest 2021, California is at 952, Florida 645. We're down at 380, back in 5th place. But if you go back and look, our peak was in 2010. We did have numbers in the 480,000 level. I have heard, people say, oh yeah, we have about 400 now these days, which 380. But it is interesting because, again, this is the registration number. A lot of people are already bringing up the fact that some of y'all own more than one bike, don't you? You're guilty, myself included. So we know these are just registrations, and that might explain the whole, yeah, there might be 14% registered vehicles, but we can only ride one at a time, as my dad likes to tell me. So maybe if we loan them out to our friends and got more people on them, then we could get higher up to 14% or so. So that's kind of a look at the registration. So let's go on to the next level. So somewhere in the top 10 we are. Somebody brought up the question about, well, you know, hey, population. Well, that's an excellent question, and so I thought about that myself, and I said, okay, well, motorcycle registrations. Looking at that chart, California has been steady at that 900 level, and for the total that they have there, they represent about 10% of all the motorcycles in the United States, one state. So population, what they listed there was California at 39, Texas at 29, and Florida at 21. You know, so that's a little disappointing. We have more people. Florida has less people and more motorcycles. We're doing something wrong here, guys. You know, and then if you look at New York and Pennsylvania, some of those other states who were kind of right there nipping at our heels, and they have like half our population, they're doing some things right. I'm not sure why that, you know, they're, you know, right there nipping at our heels that way. So Florida had the 600 and we had the 380. That's about 4% of the nation's motorcycles by using those registration numbers. So, and again, I will tell you some of these sources, some of it is insurance, some of it is just Google, etc. I know Cody is getting TXDMV actual numbers, and it's like, you know, and those are actually lower than what's on this particular slide. But, you know, yeah, it's ballpark stuff. You know, it still doesn't change the ranking order. Not much. So, but in relation to population, there it is by population. You see that Florida and us are, you know, in the same size. California is definitely bigger that way. All right, let's move on. All right, so looking at NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, their crash data is FARS, and so for 2020 they put out a report showing nationwide. So the top 3 states were Florida, California, and Texas, and the number of fatalities. So that's the number of fatalities per state for 2020. Florida had 600, California 539, and Texas at 486. And then you see the next 3 are half of that, 200 each. So, and those percentages is that would be the total percentage of the nation's fatalities. So Florida has 10% of the nation's fatalities, California just under 10, and us 8% of the nation's motorcycle fatalities. But the top 3 states represent 30% of all the fatalities nationwide. Another big factor that people have been talking about is our alcohol. So alcohol involvement. We had 173 alcohol-involved crashes for 38%. So 38% of our fatalities were alcohol involved. So this is a big problem. That is one of the areas that has come up several times. We need to focus on educating and getting the word out about the problem and trying to address how we kind of fix that stuff. And you see that Florida, California, they've got basically the same, about the same number. It's still a problem in those areas as well. Some of the states, especially with the lower numbers, the percentages the percentages ranged, I think, from like 15 to 75%, but in some of the small states where they only have, if you have a small number, the percent change is pretty big, just because of the math there. All right, next one. So another thing we want to look at, a lot of people are interested in the training side of things. So the latest numbers that I could get for this is 2018. California, and actually in the 2018 report, they're reporting the 2017 number for California, which is 57,000 motorcyclists trained. Texas had 29,000. Florida also had 29,000 trained. And then the next three highest were New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, which kind of relates to that registration number stuff, that they got strong registration, they're busy on the training side. So that's who's doing the ones for training. So keep up the good work there. Next. So, how does Texas compare? For those people who deal with the crash data information, FARS is the nationwide by NHTSA. It's a separate database than the CRIS database. Texas, we like to think the CRIS database is more timely and more accurate than the national one. But nationwide, 5,579 motorcyclists killed in the 2020. So for the nation, they showed the alcohol impairment level at 27%. So you saw that the top three states were all above that level. And they also said nationally, 36% had no valid license. And so for Texas, we showed 481 motorcyclists killed in 2020, 30% impairment, and 54% no valid motorcycle license. So you see that the no valid license issue is actually climbing, and there's been a lot of discussion on the training side with several people that the fact that is the training with the shortage of coaches, that that's part of the issue, is that with the changes that we've had recently, is there's harder and harder to get training, and a lot of people are choosing just to ride without it. Right. I'll pause, take a breath, and we'll move on. Next slide. So some of the things that I thought were interesting is, California has twice the motorcycles we do, and yet we're killing almost the same, within 100. I mean, we're in the same league here. Florida, they're really pretty much even with us, but we need to be looking out and seeing, hey, what are other states and countries doing? Bottom line, what can we do better here in Texas to save our fellow Texas motorcyclists? I mean, looking at the FARS data, it's about a 20-page document. It's got a lot of good information. It breaks down the alcohol involvement crashes by level, and all three of the top states had about 75 people that were twice the legal limit. We're talking 0.15. So that's the cutoff on the deal, and all three of the top states had that, which is, a pretty sizable number. That's a serious problem that, we're getting people that are, twice the legal limit, still choosing to get on a motorcycle and go kill themselves. That's not a good thing. So, if you have some suggestions or thoughts on this, throw them in there. Or some of y'all are already with other questions that seeing this or whatever raises another question for you, then by all means put it in there, and maybe we can ask others to follow up and try to get some more information. Jude's already mentioned we are going to try to follow this up with some of the Texas CRIS data and look at the hotspots within the state and confirm the locations and the alcohol, that kind of stuff as well. Keith, to answer your question, nothing on type of motorcycles. That is something on the CRIS data that I do. I have asked that question, and we're going to try to break that down again. A couple of years ago, we did it by manufacturer. I did that for my presentation a couple of years ago, and I want to do that again, so we can see that.
So to that, we did talk to our data folks at TTI about being able to do that data, and it's rather intensive, especially if you aren't very versed in motorcycles. So when they put down a make and model, being able to identify what style it is, whether it's a cruiser, sport bike, sport touring, adventure, enduro, all that kind of thing. It takes a lot of effort to try to identify and come up with those, and maybe even from pulling multiple data sources. So we are looking into it, just not sure. We're still trying to figure out the best way to come up with the numbers. So Maurice, if you have more suggestions, please send them to us. We'll be happy to take them.
Well, for my last presentation, I just did it by manufacturer, but then from there we can, if we just look at the fatals, because you're only looking at about 500, we can talk about that, and I can actually get with them on, some of the codes and stuff to kind of help sort some of that out, for those people who want to know the style. And Michael Cram has an excellent deal. My goodness, what is this? Let's see. I think it's unfair to charge a motorcycle the same price for the road tolls as cars. What do you think? Amen, brother. Amen. That's a huge thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. So if y'all, let's see, where are we doing on time, Kathy? 11.
Got about 15 more minutes for this section.
Yeah, let's go. We can pause here for a moment. Any questions? Yes, James, I completely agree. Motorcycles, tolling, think it should be 100% free. Motorcycles were the original green vehicle. We look at the wear and tear on the roadway, the improvements to traffic congestion and flowing, the improvements that benefits there. I think that's they should be rewarded for what they're doing for the traffic that people don't realize or appreciate.
As Maurice's personal humble opinion, not as a.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say it was the TMSC. I said I think motorcycling is there's actually some really good information. I'm going to point out a website here coming up. We have the announcement the third Tuesday in June is Ride to Work Day, and the Ride to Work website has excellent information on a lot of this stuff. And that's probably a good segue to go ahead and move into the next thing, Kathy. Or Laura, whoever's driving. Well, all right. So what we're about to see in Mexico City, hey, Laura, do you have the notes? Because
I got it.
I had to call in. I'm on the. Okay, go ahead, Kathy. Set it up with the.
Yeah, this is a video of traffic in Mexico City, the worst traffic in the world. The source being TomTom Traffic Index. People waste up to 5 hours a day in their cars. An innovative opportunity to deliver a Whopper to those hungry drivers like never before.
That looks
Play
like a
the
Whopper of a
video.
traffic jam.
The Traffic Jam Whopper. We used real-time data to detect our potential buyers in a traffic jam to offer them a Whopper and deliver on the move.
Fernanda, buenos días. Señor Eduardo, buenas tardes.
¡Ay, qué bello!
Llegaste en chinga, cabrón. Me cagaba de hambre.
Our media was 100% dynamic, promoting our service only in high congestion zones. By leveraging traffic and drivers' real-time data, we adjusted our billboards' location and content. The messages displayed information about the remaining time in traffic to order and personalized updates about deliveries in progress. Also, Waze banner ads and push notifications invited drivers to get a Whopper as soon as they entered our delivery zones. People were able to use voice commands to place the order and avoid tickets. Finally, using the latest Google Maps APIs, our app pinpointed vehicle location and speed in order to deliver for the first time ever to a driver on the move. The delivery zones changed following the traffic live, making our service available when a gridlock was identified, always within a 3-kilometer radius from the restaurants.
Hola Mariana, ¿cómo estás?
¡Ay, te agarraría besos!
Lo siento, estoy en servicio.
In just 1 week, we increased delivery orders by 63%, and our daily app download rate increased 44 times, becoming the #1 fast food app, surpassing McDonald's, Domino's, and Starbucks in Mexico. Coming soon, Los Angeles, San Paulo, and Shanghai. The Traffic Jam Whopper.
Enjoy the traffic jam.
That is genius.
You know, I thought it was pretty cool. The thing is, I mean, the good and the bad. I mean, now you have car drivers eating. They need another distraction. But, you know, it's also one of those good, hey, it's a positive promotion of motorcycling. So, I mean, it's like, look, I mean, here's how motorcyclists can save the day by feeding people stuck in their cars. That's actually from 2018. So it's not as fresh as you would like. Those burgers are now a little stale, but it's very interesting. I thought it was, you know, and it points to the technology that we have. It also points to, as we look to California, one of the other discussions we've had, Texas and California, we all know that California and a couple other states allow lane splitting, sharing the road. So, and you saw in Mexico, they're obviously not promoting that because those delivery drivers could just pull up and drop off the burgers and go. I didn't see a whole lot of motorcycles. Maybe the motorcycles are already gone. And it's just the cars stuck in traffic. So I think that's probably the reality. So, so it kind of gets us on to the next thing is lane splitting between cars of moving traffic, filtering, stopped at lights. You can see this is a great picture here because in America, you know, you think only one. But if you look, if you see that far right lane, do you see how far, I mean, they're backed up to the bus there, and it's 2 and 3 wide in some places, and it's between every row of traffic. Think about how much more people are getting through that light every time. I mean, that is just better, more throughput, you know, increasing traffic flow, and improves it for everybody. So pretty cool deal. I think we've got the definitions next there, Kathy. For those who like to read, not like pictures. I like the picture. It's
Actually, I stuck the picture in there and took the writing out, but basically,
okay.
yeah, if you want to talk to it.
What version of it? We had the we just had the AMA. AMA defines each one, and then you can also do the, you know, use
Wikipedia.
your computer or phone and Wikipedia, you know, and they kind of tell you the difference, splitting and filtering. Obviously, you know, the other cool thing about that to me, and I think this is one of the factors for California, is that filtering, when you're in Texas traffic, people may never see a motorcycle, one or two a day. But when you're in these cities in California, you see motorcycles because they're passing all the cars. I mean, it's one of the easiest, freest public campaigns you can do because it puts it right out front. And again, it's another positive promotion of it. Go ahead and go to the next. This was another resource off the Ride to Work site, and I thought this was really cool because if you notice, this is done by an insurance company, and I just think it's a really cool message that touches on some of these things, and let's just play it and talk about it. Go ahead. So, just some thoughts and comments on the video. The video refers to a Belgian study that showed that having motorcycles in traffic reduced congestion for everybody by that 10%. And then also, if you increase the number of motorcycles to 25%, that the congestion would completely be eliminated, basically. So some really cool things there. Also just thought it was really cool how an insurance company put that together, and they're saying, hey, look, our motorcycle customers are, because how many times have you heard people comment that, oh, the motorcycle riders are better car drivers? And and the insurance companies citing that and seeing that in their experience as well. So thought that was a really cool piece of information that a lot of us have had the opinion of and thought about, and here it is in some hard numbers from an insurance company. Which, when's the last time your insurance company gave you something positive? Now, I'm not sure if they actually went ahead and gave them that 23% reduction on their dues. Probably not. But thought that was pretty cool. So. And the Berkeley study and stuff is on the Ride to Work website as well. There's the California rules are on there. The California guidelines for safely doing it from CHP are on the website as well. And I think people ask, is it safe, etc. If you look at what's going on around the world, and let's take California, for example. They have twice the motorcycles. They're doing that. And, they're just killing a few more than we are, and they have twice the number of motorcycles. I could argue that it's definitely not more dangerous from just looking at that. Now, another thing we did see that's in the NHTSA report, when you look at that, is Florida and Texas. So half the fatalities, we had a 50-50 split on the people killed each year in Florida and Texas. Half were wearing helmets and half were not. And in California, their number was 90%. So they only had 10% not wearing helmet. So that's another factor that goes into the equation. But that's not it's all those factors together that are putting that together. So yes, I mean getting to work easier on a motorcycle and quicker, because I mean if you have the option of being stuck in traffic for hours or getting there quicker, and they showed that on the insurance video as well in Europe, how that they were able to travel places quicker by motorcycle. So I'll stop talking and leave it up for questions or whatever. We got a few more minutes before the next item, so raise your hand if you'd like a comment or anything else, or put it in the chat.
I kind of have a question from Michael Cram. He said back in Delaware, you had massive events where bikers were rallying to support non-killing animal shelters, raised a ton of money and had full support from the police force, but don't see that in Texas, at least not in Austin. What do you not see? I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to say.
I just trying to say that I don't see any advertisement, even if those events having place, I don't know about them. And they was very highly popular among the business owners who was also supporting the case. And they was very welcomed by the public. And it was, I mean, win-win situation for everyone. We had, when we had those rallies, the Delaware police was escorting us. So we was riding in the open street. So every street, every highway was open for the rally, and then every rally end up with the big lunch. We was buying stuff just to support the no killing case for the shelter. I mean, it was good feeling, and it was something real, help for the community and for the animals. After all, I just don't see it here. Maybe it's having place. I just don't see it here. Thank you for letting me speak.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Michael. That's some good information. I've never been on a ride for the shelter. My wife works at our local one, but the big events that I know of in Texas is there's several big toy runs. They just went to the Tri-County one in Central Texas area. We had a local one here in the College Station area. Austin, I'm not quite as familiar with. There's also a big charity ride for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, the Ride for Kids organization. That's another good one supported by that.
I'm on another meeting. Could you call me at 11:30?
Okay. All right, guys, put in what you'd all like to see or other upcoming stuff.
Can I step in and clarify something about lane splitting in Texas?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, sir, by all means.
Okay.
Good morning.
So lane splitting is commonly thought of to be illegal in Texas because it's not mentioned anywhere in the transportation code. So where people get off on thinking that it is illegal is they refer to 545060 in the transportation code, where it talks about using a single mark lane and all that kind of stuff. Well, and also thinking it's illegal because it doesn't mention it to be legal, but it's not illegal in Texas. It's all in how you are doing it. The laws that get people hung up and arrested or ticketed for lane splitting is when they're going, over the speed limit through cars, or there's traffic and they're going 60 miles an hour between the cars that are going 15 miles an hour. So in other words, driving recklessly. So the reckless drivers are the ones that are getting in trouble for this stuff. The ones that are filtering through properly, that's perfectly legal in Texas. Like I said, there's 0 laws in the books currently in Texas that specify lane splitting or filtering in a legal or illegal way, period. So once you get, once you do it, if you're doing it safely, I do it all the time. I do it on my work bike, whether, obviously I'm not going to get in trouble on my work bike for anything I do, but I do it on my personal motorcycle all the time. It's all about, it's lane changing is all it is. You're able to get closer to a car than you on a motorcycle than in a car. So, the only issues I've dealt with are people in Texas don't like us doing it. So they don't move out of the way like they do in California and that kind of thing. But when they do, it's actually really nice to get through to a red light quicker in traffic. And like someone said earlier, it's safer because I'm not going to worry about getting rear-ended and all those things. So, but I just wanted to step in and clarify that it's not actually illegal. It's just on how you're doing it to make it safe for you and everybody else. That's what you're going to get arrested or ticketed for. That's all I had to say for it.
Thank you very much. That's some interesting, and for the people who have followed it in California, that's how it started in California also, that it was not codified till about, I think 17 or 18 when they finally codified it into the law. So
in California, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in Texas, they tried to do that several years ago and and the whole push from groups was to make it legal. Well, like I said, it's not illegal either. So.
Ready for our next one?
Thank you very much. Sure.
Maurice, did you want to take this one too, or?
I'll let you do it.
So from what I heard from everybody, we want to stick with this April 1st. Motorcycle safety is no joke, and you're going to be very supportive and helpful in making sure that it is widely publicized. When you see the social media and emails, you're going to forward them to everybody you know and ask them to forward them to everybody they know so that we can get our participation sky high this year. We had one year, about 4 years back now, that we had so many people, we burst the walls on the room that we had prepared, and love to do that again. So that being said, our next coalition meeting is set for March 31st, which would be the day before the forum, in person at the same venue. So we'll have more information for you on that as far as location and time. And then our last Q4 fourth quarter meeting is set for August 17th. And originally we had it set for a Teams meeting like we're doing now, but we've had many requests for having it back in person, even if it's for this short hour and a half, 2-hour meeting. So maybe not including a lunch, but y'all can go out for lunch and do that. And then and perhaps even having it a hybrid, so those that cannot attend in person can attend over Teams. So that's what we're looking at now. We are willing to meet in person at the Relilis campus, TTI headquarters, in Bryan in August. Again, please drop in your topic speakers. What do you want to hear? Either that or you have to hear from Maurice again. So we love the engineer with all his numbers. If nothing else, he brings a lot of passion to the work. So we appreciate all the hard work he's put into preparing for today. But we want to hear from you. What do you want to hear from us, or what information do you want that we can prepare and have for you? So thank you on that. Next announcement. Go ahead, Maurice. You're on mute, Maurice. There you are. Maybe not.
Or something that they have to share and go over with as well. So,
yes.
And the also on the Ride to Work website, the people are talking about the map of the U.S. with the different laws and such. That's available on the Ride to Work website as well under the resources page. So good place to get a lot of good information. So.
And we'll be dropping a lot of those resources that Maurice used in today's presentation will be added to the handouts on the website once we upload all the information from this meeting. So our next announcement, we're hopefully gearing up for a social media push countdown for the Texas Motorcycle Safety Awards for 2023. Those nominations are open. We have received some nominations. However, we want to make sure everybody is aware that that's open and everybody has a voice. The link is on the website, and it will be included on any social media or emails that go out. In fact, some of your emails for this meeting probably included that. Please, again, share those social medias, share the emails, let people know what's there so we can really grow our base. We can grow our influence. We can reach more and more people across the state of Texas. So that registration nominations close on March 1st, so we can prepare for the award presentations on the April 1st forum. So you can also check out the website looklearnlive.org awards page for information about previous winners. And our final announcements page, we have attended the two events so far, Lone Star Rally and the Central Texas Toy Run. I think it was Tri-County Toy Run is actually what the name of it was. My error, I apologize. Which was a huge success. And thanks to Maurice, he also told us about another toy run that was happening in College Station that same weekend on the 3rd. So we were able to get almost 200 coloring books and crayons and other things to stuff some stockings with for kids to be introduced to or exposed to motorcycle and motorcycle safety. Our next event is coming up in Houston. It's the Houston RV Show on February the 8th through the 11th. So we will be there for that event. And then we just secured our spot at EarthX 2023 in April as well. So if you're in those areas and you'd like to come out and help us out, we'd love to have you volunteer some of your time to talk to people about your experiences and your passion for motorcycling and sharing the word for motorcycle safety. These are motorist events, or not, so it's a lot of share the road, and there's a life riding on it. Although we will also have some of the motorcycle take a class, other things to hand out as well. Our next little bit of an announcement is our TxDOT strategies communities. We've talked about this before, and we've sent out a request to update your information on the coalition email list. As that's been developed over the years, we've only asked for an email because it's just been an email list. So we've just been sending out communications. However, as TxDOT has asked us to make sure that, or to actually log and track who we are reaching out to across the state, you are our biggest sharing of information across the state. So if we know where you are, then we can also know perhaps where we need to make some concerted efforts to reach out to more people in areas that are underrepresented or under communicated to. So please do that as well. And we might just have a special gift for you if you do. Give us your zip code. If you don't know where your districts are, who your districts are, reach out. It's also available online. Your district traffic safety officers are your contacts if you want to get the share the road yard signs. They have those to give out. So reach out to them and make sure you're working with your local district traffic safety officers, specialists rather, and their traffic safety coalitions as well to have the motorcycle voice heard within their coalitions. So I'm sorry I took up more time than I expected for announcements, so I'll throw it back out there for open for the last 4 or 5 minutes of the meeting. Anybody?
Kathy,
Maurice?
Kathy, this is Laura. Sorry, because of everything else on my screen, I can't raise my hand. I just wanted to make a quick announcement as part of one of the other TxDOT sponsored motorcycle safety projects this year. For the second year, I'm managing a project looking specifically at alcohol and riding. Some of you may remember last year we developed sort of a toolkit, a document of ideas for the motorcycling community on ways to reduce crashes and injuries. And towards the end of the fiscal year, we asked for and got some excellent feedback on more things to add to that document, kind of expand it out. So I already have one or two of you in my sights to ask a couple of specific questions, but we're looking, as examples, we're looking for more information about, possible safe ride home options for motorcycle riders. We're going to be looking for, we've heard that many of the motorcycle clubs, whether or not they have a written alcohol policy or not, have ways of self-policing their own members on group rides and things like that. And we want to know more. We partially so we can include those as examples, and so we can include some of those techniques for maybe people who are not in clubs but need to intervene with a fellow rider. So like I said, I've got one or two of you in my sights already that I'm planning to contact, but if there's anyone who would like to participate and talk to me about that toolkit or some messages we can put out about alcohol and riding, please definitely let us know. Get in contact with me. I would be more than happy to talk with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And we did have a question about Motorcycle Safety Month, which is May, but we usually have some kind of a kickoff event, and I don't see Chris here from Sherry Matthews, but Allison from TxDOT, would you happen to know if they have set a date for kicking off Motorcycle Safety Month in May?
Let me take a look at our internal calendar really quick. It might not have been set just yet, but I'll take a look.
If not, hopefully we'll have it by our forum on April 1st.
It's showing, I don't know if this is that event, but it appears we're doing a Do You See Me Now motorcycle safety awareness event in Temple, Texas on Sunday, April 30th. But that might not be the media event, but I'll keep y'all updated when I find something, hear something definitive.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
Yes, no problem.
Maurice, anything else? Anybody else have anything for open forum?
Probably is the kickoff event right before the month kind of deal. So that's what I was kind of curious, because I know April 1 is a little early, but I just thought it'd be something we could ask about, Kathy. All right, guys, this is your last chance. Comments? complaints about the speaker?
All right, Maurice, can I jump in real quick?
Yes, sir. All you.
Hey, just want to let everybody know that there is a bill being worked on. Legislature is being drafted to make some changes for the program. I know rider coach and instructor training is a huge topic in the state of Texas. But there's been a bill drafted up, and it's going to be hopefully presented in this legislative session. There's going to be lots of good information and good positive changes. We believe at the department there's going to be a lot of positive changes moving forward with the bill. So keep your eyes open for that. Once it gets submitted, you'll be able to view it through the legislative online link. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that PDLR has heard a lot of the concerns. I know there's rider coach training is a huge topic, and we're trying to make it easier to get rider coaches also. So look for that legislative bill coming this session. Thanks, Maurice.
Thanks.
I think Maurice was saying, thank you, Mike. We appreciate that. I think his phone is not working for him anymore. So next slide, unless there's any objection, do we have a motion to adjourn? I'm going to say yes. And a second?
I'll make that motion.
And we got a second from Jude. So Mike and Jude, thank you. We appreciate everybody for being here. We really love all the input for this meeting and love the increase in interaction. Thank you again. Look for more information on the forum and our next meeting. And as always, please ride safe and share the word so we can share the road. Have a great day, everybody. And next slide, Laura, and we can adjourn.
That's it. Thank you all very much.